Hello, hello, and welcome to Fine, I'll Talk About It, the podcast where we say the quiet parts out loud. Real talk, straight to the point, no fake positivity. I'm your host, Danielle Young, and today I'm joined by Marcus O'Day. Marcus is an author, designer, coach, creative strategist, and book publicist. He specializes in guiding creatives and other sensitive humans towards greater meaning and fulfillment in their lives. Today's episode is all about neurodivergent and highly sensitive people and the labels and stigma put on them. Marcus, welcome to Fine, I'll Talk About It.
Thanks, Danielle. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me on. I'm
Yeah,
excited.
thank you so much for being here. I'm
Yay!
excited to talk about this subject, considering we are both neurodivergent.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a sometimes it's a hard road to hoe because, you're trying to fit in with the world and it doesn't always work out that way.
Yeah,
And so that brings shame, that brings guilt, that brings all this stuff because we feel like we're failing to be human when actually we're being more than human. So, neurodivergence is a very interesting topic.
yes.
I can't wait till medical science catches up with us who know things,
Yeah,
who've lived it.
that would be great. So, why don't we start off with you just telling us a little bit about you
Okay.
and how you discovered you were neurodivergent and highly sensitive?
Okay, sure. Well, I came up in a family that whose way of raising children seemed to be if it ain't like us, kill it. That
Mm,
was the kind of
yeah,
approach that my parents had. I have 13 siblings. I ended up raising them pretty much on my own. One, because my mom was pregnant most of the time, so she was not able to do that. And two, my father was more absent than present. So it was really interesting. And I got in trouble a lot for being so sensitive because I was one of their male children. And their kind of process was big boys don't cry, man up, stop being such a sissy. Anything that would kind of denigrate the gender of their child, they would use that. I got called the F word a number of times, and I won't elaborate on what that is just for
yeah,
posterity. And so that's how I grew up, and I came out of that. I came out of that um, by leaving home. I left home young at 15, 16 in that range because I didn't think that I would survive that. I was sensitive. It was something that I couldn't change. And so I left and went out on my own and lived on the streets for a couple years and then kind of started to find my way. And I found my way from Michigan to Colorado, which is where I really came of age, is in Colorado. And I also began to understand that I had some additional things on board other than just sensitivity. And at that time, there was no diagnosis, there was nothing for that. If you were a sensitive person, you were broken or something was wrong with you or whatever. But that was the general consensus. But then I also began to learn that I had issues with focusing and having too much energy. So here's this highly sensitive or energetic person trying to figure out his path in the world. Eventually, I did. In 1997, when Dr. Elaine Aron wrote the book called The Highly Sensitive Person, that's the first time I realized that there was a name for what I was experiencing. And that was such a liberating moment for me. It was like you read the book with your jaw hanging open, like, oh my God, this is me. This is
yeah,
me. Every page said something more. And so I began to understand that it was a trait, not a flaw. It was a feature. And I decided then and there, I said, that's never going to be called a weakness to my face again. This is going to be my strength because I am not going to allow anybody to tell me that there's something wrong with me just because I'm sensitive. Maybe there's a reason for it. I don't know.
yeah,
So As I came of age, though, the toxic upbringing and everything led me to a life of addiction and alcohol, and that was really tough. It was more like I was drowning out the sensitivity than anything else. Uh,
Mm,
got clean and sober, started that in 1997, took me a while, but from that point on, it's like, I did it to myself. I became an addict and an alcoholic. So I have to fix it. It's me, it's something that I chose. So now I'm choosing not to do that anymore and I'm going to move forward. And that's what happened. And it just became, I've learned to develop systems that work really well with my sensitivity. Also, the ADHD portion of that, I've started learning how to work with that and make it not a flaw, but again, a feature. And
yeah.
so I changed ADHD into 80, which is 80, HD, which stands for high definition, and I call it 80 high definition channels of creative flow. And so that's how I started managing it and decided that I don't need to focus on just one thing. I don't need to sit down and shut up. I don't need to go sit in the corner and be quiet. I can do these things. So I did work for the government for a while, and that was very, very difficult. I don't do well in those kind of structured situations
Right.
because of these issues or these traits, not issues, sorry,
Mhm.
these traits. So I lasted for about 10 years in that. And I said, nope, I'm going to work for myself. That's it. I understand me. I know how I function. I know when I'm getting tired and need to rest. And I know when I need a quiet day. I know these things intrinsically. And so I've just started building my world that way. So now those 80 definition channels of creative process have served me tremendously. I use a process called slow motion multitasking, which means that I give myself permission to work on as many creative projects as I want, but I have to focus on them one at a time. I can't do them all at the same time. So I'll
Yeah.
take a day or a half a day and work on this book, and I'll take the other half of the day and do some design work, or if I'm really in the flow, I will do one whole day in that project. That is rare, but it's helpful because I know now that I can do it and I don't get distracted and I don't leave things unfinished for the rest of my life. I've got 4 novels out right now looking for agent representation. I've got 3 nonfiction books looking for publisher interest. Running my own life is basically what it comes down to.
Yeah.
I have several jobs, but I work them remotely, which is perfect for me. So, yeah, I just think neurodivergent. I think that we get told that we shouldn't give in to these traits. If we're sensitive, then we need to find a way not to be sensitive. If we're
Hmm.
ADHD, we need to find a way not to behave that way. And
Yeah.
that to me is wrong. That's
Yeah.
like telling dogs not to bark. I think it's more harmful that we get told these things
Hmm.
because they're implying that something's wrong with us. And I
Right.
think that's the whole problem with the bigger system is that it doesn't take into account that our brains don't work that way. And it doesn't seem like anyone's trying to figure out a system that does work for neurodivergent people.
Yeah.
Mostly it's just societal people, conflict and stuff like that because people are like, oh, why can't you be like the rest of us? Well,
Yeah.
because I'm not.
Right.
And I don't want to pretend to be anymore because that's not authentically who I am. I needed a way to be accepting of everything about me and figure out how to use it so that I can thrive rather than just fight all the time. So,
Yeah. So I was diagnosed at 44 with ADHD.
mm,
And I'm like, this explains a lot, so much about my childhood and about why I behaved the way I did and why I thought the things I did. And yeah, I mean, I grew up in the 80s. It wasn't well known. And it was like, just sit down, do your thing, pay attention. And I'm like, I can't,
what does that
you
even
know,
mean?
yeah, like I don't know what that looks like. And we're just expected to fit into this box, this tiny little box that society has set out for us. And it's like, okay, here, you go in this box, and we're going to keep you in this box because we don't want to understand how your brain works and what works for you. We just know that you're not like us and you just go here.
So exactly.
It's so infuriating.
And it goes back to what I was saying about my parents' method of raising kids. If it ain't like us, kill it. Well,
Yeah.
society has basically done a similar thing. If you're not like us, then you need to be squeezed into this box and forced to stay there.
Yeah.
How does that make sense? Doesn't make
It
sense.
doesn't. It doesn't. And I think once people start understanding the dynamics of being neurodivergent, hopefully there'll come some empathy. But until then, it's like how many of us are out there just squeezed into this little box, not living our authentic lives? I mean, you and I found a way out, but what about people who can't? People who are stuck in this corporate 9 to 5 who are just expected to follow the leader and they're dying inside because that life doesn't fit them.
Right. And you've built a support system around you that's very helpful to you because they understand who you are,
Yeah.
who you really are, and they don't try to change you. They work with that. That's the information they have, so that's what they're going to use.
I kind
Yeah.
of forced it on him too. Not gonna lie. I'm like, okay, this is who I am, except that there's the door. I mean, it's like, you have to have that level of trust and understanding in yourself to know what you need. And if people are around you that aren't going to give that to you, bye. You
Yeah.
know, don't let the door
Was
hit you in the
was
ass on the
there a
way out.
moment was there a moment for you where that changed? Where before you were kinda you knew what was going on, but then you kinda got sick of being told everything else, and that changed for you?
Yeah, I think looking back on like my childhood, I could never behave in school the way other kids did. So it was like, okay, especially with math. Okay, here's the method. Show your work. Well, I couldn't. I knew the answer, but I can't show my work, right? So I was always getting punished for that. And I would constantly be accused of, oh, you're cheating and it's like, no, I'm really not. It's just my brain doesn't work like yours.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, it's like, okay, well, now I'm reading 7 books at one time. That's not normal. Who does that?
You do.
Right. And people are like, how do you read 7 books at once and remember what you're reading? And it's like, well, because I just have a brain that does that.
That's how your brain processes it,
Yeah.
and people just don't get that. I mean, it's like,
No.
how many tabs do you have open on your computer right now?
Right now, because we're recording, I have
No.
two. On
2.
a normal day, 12 to 15. Like, seriously. And I have Post-its everywhere. Like, you have something like what, 210 projects going right now?
I do. Yep.
Yeah. How do you keep them all straight? Like, what's your method for keeping them all straight?
Thankfully, somebody invented spreadsheets, and if I could marry a spreadsheet, I would absolutely do it because that's been the biggest saving grace for me because I have to track everything so I know where they are. But like you can process a lot more information all at the same time than others might be able to. So that helps me a lot. Like I have a story, I have a novel that I just finished writing several months ago. It took me 28 years to write this novel.
Wow.
And I finally finished it. I sent it out to agents. It hasn't been represented yet. I'm getting the rejection slips and stuff like that.
Yep.
But that story has lived in my head for 28 years, and nothing has been able to distract me from it. It's always been there. And recently, I realized that if I created 2 point of view characters instead of just telling the story like from a third person omniscient point of view, if I can really drill down and make 2 of the characters direct point of view, it would change the story. And I was like, oh my God, that made it so much more powerful. So now I'm rewriting it.
Okay.
but the story's always been there.
Yeah.
And it's the same with every novel. I've got 29 first draft novels sitting in my folders, and those stories live within me. Every time I go back to write on them, I pick right up where I left off and I don't lose any of that. So
Yeah.
I love that fact. I love that trait. That's been so helpful. But I do have to use spreadsheets to make sure that I have at least some sort of organization. So if I get called away for something else and come back, I can pick up things. I want to make sure that I live my life, that the bills get paid, that the rent gets paid, that I take my medications when I'm supposed to. And so I can't let the neurodivergence distract me from those things. So I
Yeah.
track, and that's been again, I would marry a spreadsheet if one would have me.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, I've seen shows where people have married, you know, a lot different things.
Yeah,
So, I
true.
mean, it might be possible. You never know. I mean, I'm just saying,
All right. Wonder how the tax benefits would work for that.
I don't know. I mean, huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get
I don't
special
know.
tax breaks for being married to a spreadsheet. That would be
There you
great.
go.
But yeah, 210 creative projects total. And I don't hesitate to add more to that list because when they come to me, I understand that they came to me. And so it would be really arrogant of me to just say, forget it. That just doesn't sound good. No, I'm going to write it down and take notes and get the foundation set up so that one day when I have an hour or four, I can dive into that and really develop it. So at this point, I decided with all these creative projects, I can't die until I'm at least 250 years old because I'll never have time to do them all otherwise.
Yeah. I
But
like that. Just be immortal so you can finish all your
yeah,
projects.
I put in my requisition for that.
Okay.
When is my immortality gonna come in the mail? Yeah. So, I became a writer. I always knew I would be a writer. Back in childhood, raising my siblings, I would tell them stories to distract them from the abuse and all the gross things that were taking place, which was very helpful to them, I think, but it was also helpful to me because I started to learn the technique of storytelling and what makes
Mhm.
a good story. And
Yeah.
so now that I'm focusing on being a writer, I feel like that was training ground for now,
Yeah.
and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are things that happen to us in our lives that lead us to where we are. And there's some are good and some are not so good. And I think we just have to take the good with the bad and take everything as a lesson and use it to the best of our ability. And you've done that.
So somebody asked me this question the other day, and now I'm going to ask you. And I know this is your program, but I want to kind of flip the script a little bit.
Yeah, no, we're having a conversation. That's what this
Okay,
is.
cool. If you had to do it all over again, would you change anything or would you do it the same way?
I think the majority of it I would do again. There are a couple of things that I would change.
Okay.
But as I'm saying that, my life right now is because of those things. Would I want to go through them again? No.
Okay.
But I have, and I have taken everything from that and basically rebuilt myself from the ground up.
Okay.
You
I
know,
think that's amazing.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I went through an abusive relationship. Would I give that up? No, because that resulted in my daughter. And my daughter is one of the greatest humans on earth.
Yeah. That
But
just
some of
gave
the
me
things
full
I think,
body goosebumps. That gave me total goosebumps just now.
yeah. Yeah, and I mean, honestly, that experience is why I'm here. That
Mhm.
experience is why I wrote a book. That experience is why I speak on international stages. That experience is, why I'm doing the podcast. That is why I started my coaching business. It's why I coach other women. That experience has, even though it was super negative and hard for me to get through, I'm on the other side of it. and can use that moving forward. But I think it wouldn't be so much about situational things for me, it would be about personal things for me that I would change.
Okay. All right.
Every situation that I've been through now, it's led me obviously to where I am. But yeah, there were things about me that definitely I would change.
Okay. That's fair. And I think a lot of people would agree with you on that.
Yeah.
My take on it is, yeah, if you'd asked me 20 years ago if I would do it differently, I would say, oh, heck yeah. I would never have chosen addiction. Would have never done this. Living on the streets was really bloody hard. And
Yeah.
so I might not do that again. But then, like you come to a point in your current life where you're like, however, I would not be this person who I adore and love had all of those things not happened, because they may have challenged me, but I rose to the challenge and overcame them. And so, despite my parents trying to to pretend like I wasn't their child, and because of my neurodivergence, I ended up in special education classes all the way
Yeah.
through elementary school. I wouldn't go through that again because that was kind of odd. But
Yeah.
I personally don't know that I would change anything. If looking back from this very point in my life, I would say, yes, some of those things were horrible. Some of them I didn't think I would survive, yet here I am. And I was telling a client of mine yesterday, a coaching client, I said, I never thought I would live past the age of 25. I really thought that I
Wow.
would die young and leave a beautiful corpse. That's some kind of saying. Because one morning I woke up and I was 27 and I'm like, oh my God, I don't have a plan. I don't have a plan for anything. At 27 years old, I'm like, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And so, I just worked really hard to learn everything about myself that I could so I could use that information to find my path in life. And
Mhm.
part of that learning curve was coming to terms with high sensitivity, coming to terms with ADHD. Now I coach men like you coach women. I coach men who are creative and highly sensitive and help them to integrate those traits to live a better, more meaningful life. Because so many men think that's a flaw or a curse. I mean, I've heard him call it a curse.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, that must be so painful to live that way.
Yeah.
How about we look at something a little different and see how that feels?
Yeah. It's your superpower.
Is. And
Yeah.
maybe it's our job to help people see that.
Yeah.
Maybe you and I have gone through what we've gone through so we can be here to
Yeah.
help other people
Yeah.
handle whatever they're going through.
Yeah. No, I truly believe that. For a long time, like, what is my purpose? And then now, like, I get it. This is my purpose. And it feels really good to be able to live in your authentic self, but not everyone has the luxury of doing that.
Right. And it does feel like a luxury because of that.
Yeah.
I often think it's a luxury for me to be able to say that I'm highly sensitive, but I live with that in very meaningful and fulfilling ways. So, how do I help other men see that in a similar way to how I see it? And it's not easy because, like, many of us, we didn't come up with great childhoods or the perfect family or anything like that. So we've got all this baggage that we brought forward with us into adulthood on top of this sensitivity or ADHD. And so how do you manage that? It's so overwhelming.
Yeah. It is.
Kind of a side trivia fact, coaching is the fastest growing industry in the world right now.
Eh,
Yep.
I knew it was growing pretty quick. I didn't know it was the fastest growing.
Yep.
I mean, I've been doing
The
this for a
fastest growing
while.
industry. Pretty soon we're all going to be coaches and it'll be wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think everybody has a story to share, and I think everybody has some hard lessons that they've gone through. And even though they may not be neurodivergent or highly sensitive, everybody has a story.
Right.
And I think everyone's story needs to be shared and is deserving of being shared.
Right. And I wasn't going to bring this up, but it's kind of a good segue to that. I'm in talks right now. Back in the mid 2010s, I was working on a program called Front Porch Stories for Colorado Public Radio, which is part of NPR.
Okay.
And it didn't work out because of my mental health issues, addiction issues, those kinds of things all came crashing down on me right around that time. So that project was just pushed aside and I never got it out of its closet. Recently, I got talking to a guy who is a musician. He's 80. He just learned that he's highly sensitive like 10 weeks ago. So I'm coaching him through that, but he has amazing stories to tell. And I said, "Well, are you writing your memoir?" He says, "No, I'm not good at the writing part." He says, "But I could probably do it on video. If I just sat and talked to the camera, I could tell my stories and tell it over time." I said, "That would be a digital memoir. That would be fantastic." And then I thought, well, wait a second. Everybody has stories like this. And
Hmm.
so now I'm resurrecting Front Porch Stories, and it's exactly
Yay.
what you said. It's everybody has a story. How does the world get to hear your story? Well,
Yeah.
unless you have a platform to give it, then there's really no way. You could write a memoir, which not everybody is a writer. So,
Right.
how did the other people do that? So, because I'm neurodivergent, I think differently.
Hmm.
That's how that led to that. And it's fun. It's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think right now we're being so censored in what we say and how things are said. And I think at the heart of it, in my opinion, everyone just needs to understand that these are stories that have meaning to them. Not everybody is going to have a story that resonates, and not everyone is going to say something that you agree with, but they still have a right to say it. And they still have a right to speak their truth, even though you don't agree with it. You can hold two thoughts in your head. You can respect the fact that they have a right to speak and not like what they have to say. But we've lost that. So we've lost the ability to hold two thoughts in our head at one time. And it just seems like, things are so tribal now.
Well, yeah, and I totally agree there. And it's really divisive. The whole
Hmm.
world seems to be being divided every single day for some reason. You look at the transgender movement and you think, there's a group of people who a lot of people disagree with. And so there's a division. And I mean, you can name just about any group that doesn't fit the main story, and they're going to be marginalized because
Yeah.
of who they are at their core. So
Yeah.
I was talking to a friend the other day. I just posted an article on Substack about this. We've forgotten how to listen to ourselves. And I call this
Hmm.
the monastery of self.
Hmm.
It wasn't until I decided I had to get out of Colorado because even though I was getting sober and clean, it was still way too chaotic. Too many social expectations. I knew too many people. Everybody wanted to be doing something at all times. I didn't get a moment to sit down and hear myself think. So I packed everything up, the dogs and me and the cat, and we moved to the middle of nowhere in North Dakota, which is where we are now. And it was probably the most amazing thing I ever could have done for myself because now I can hear myself 100% of the time. So intuition has come back stronger. My ability to think clearly has been upgraded tremendously. And it all has to do with the fact that now I can hear myself. I can hear my body if it's telling me that something's wrong, and I can address it immediately. And before it's like, oh no, I'll ignore it because I want to go to the concert tonight, so I'm not going to work for that. Blah.
Yeah.
I don't do that anymore, and that may be because I've matured. I've become a more mature person, but it still was one of the things. Even my current therapist says that she advises her clients, don't isolate.
Yeah.
And she says, for me, I'm the first person that ever showed her that somebody can actually thrive in isolation, which I
Hmm.
do. So that was an eye opener for her. And it was validation for me that I was on the right path. And that's my story.
Yeah. And you're sticking to it.
Yeah, I'm sticking to it.
So anybody who's listening to this who says, I think I might be highly sensitive, like, can you just kind of explain a little bit about what that means? Because some people haven't heard of HSP.
Okay. So, highly sensitive person is a designation that Dr. Elaine Aron came up with after doing years of research because some people seem to be processing differently, processing external stimuli, noises, crowds, social situations. And sometimes those are considered introverts, which is a real thing. But the high sensitivity goes beyond that. It's like a highly sensitive person. Whereas say an introvert processes sounds at 100 decibels. A highly sensitive person hears it at 150 decibels. There's that big gap between what we're processing and what other people may be processing. That doesn't mean we're better. It doesn't mean we're broken. It just is what we are. We didn't ask for it. Like for me, my sense of smell is so strong. I can remember every perfume and cologne that any of my friends have worn ever in the history of my life because my nose is that strong. And so
Hmm.
certain scents remind me of somebody so vividly. And I love that. But it used to be so annoying because it's like, oh, I don't want to think about that right now.
Yeah.
But as a sensitive person, touch becomes something much more invasive. A lot of highly sensitive people don't like touch that much. I had to retrain myself to be able to have, hugs or shake hands or anything because I was one of those that I was very averse to touch. Don't touch me. Don't touch my skin specifically.
Yeah.
So it manifested for me in those ways. And every sensitive person is different in their own ways, but none of them are broken. And, how guiding people to finding a middle ground where they can survive and thrive while being sensitive or while being ADHD or while being anything. It could be anything. It takes work, but it can be done. And I can say 100% that I support anyone who decides to take on that work and do that heavy lifting for themselves.
Yeah.
So I hope I'm trying to think if I covered everything about sensitivity, but the world to us is a much brighter, louder, smellier, touchy place than
Yeah.
it is for some. And it's not autism because autism is like high sensitivity times 100. That's a whole different thing. So some people try to say, "Oh, well, you're just on the spectrum." No, I'm not. Unless you extend the spectrum at the low end for a long ways, because high sensitivity is so not autism, and it's not some of these other things that people manifest or exhibit as personality traits or other things that they live with every day. I mean, I have friends who have Tourette syndrome. They're not broken. It's just different. I have friends who are synesthetes that they smell color or taste shapes. That's synesthesia.
Hmm.
And they'll be the first person to tell you because it has been described as a mental disorder. And they will say it's not a disorder. It's just a difference in the way our brains process this stuff.
Yeah.
So when I see the number one, it's the color red every time, or however it manifests. I see a triangle and it tastes like broccoli. Whatever. It is a thing. And it's really taught me to be a lot more accepting of some of these other traits that, I don't personally have, but I understand how they can be invisible and perceived as bad by
Yeah.
people who don't have any understanding or knowledge of it.
Yeah, and I think goes back to what I said earlier. I think we just need to be more accepting of people as they are. It doesn't matter if you understand it or not. Try. Try understanding it. At least say, okay, how can I support you?
There you go.
Instead of like, okay, well, you go over here because you're different and I don't know how to deal with you. So you're at arm's length. Just ask them,
Yeah.
how can I best support you?
So I came
How
across,
can I be a good friend to you?
how can I treat you like a human?
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. Because you are
Yeah.
human.
Right.
That'd be like calling somebody out because they have brown eyes. Well, you have brown eyes. You're weird. That doesn't make any sense to me anymore. It might have as a younger man, but not anymore. I came across this organization that I think is just amazing, and it's called the Human Library. Are you familiar with it?
Uh-uh.
So what it is, it's an actual library, and you check out other humans like their books. And so you check out
Okay.
a person and be able to sit with them for 30 minutes or 60 minutes and have this kind of conversation. And they could be whatever. They could be transgender. They could be neurodivergent in another way. They could be highly sensitive. They could be this. All of those things, you can check out a book, which is a person, grow in your understanding of them. And I just think that's just an amazing concept. And I encourage
Yeah.
people to get involved in that. It's a nonprofit and it's amazing. They're online and I think it's called thehumanlibrary.org. Don't quote me on that, but it's something like that. But if you type
Okay.
in the human library, it'll come up. I think it's the
Yeah.
only one like it in the world.
Yeah. I saw a story about this on social media and I love that concept. And you can just talk to elderly people and just hear their stories of their childhood and understand like why certain generations think the way that they do. I mean, everybody's always picking on Gen X, like, hey, I'm Gen X, but we were completely feral growing up because they had commercials at 10 o'clock at night, like, where are your children?
Right.
We were on the sides of milk cartons because things were just different for us. And it's not that we're weird or we're different. It's just that's how we grew up.
That was our environment.
Yeah. But instead of accepting us, they call us names. Well,
Right.
we've been called worse.
So one of my favorite things besides what this human library is doing is their tagline and it's unjudge someone. And I'm just like,
I
that
love
says it
that.
all. That says everything about what they're doing. And yeah, I just encourage people to become a book. Check yourself into
Yeah.
the library, become a book and help other people understand you and
Yeah.
understand what you've gone through. And that's what I want to do with front porch stories. I want to allow people to tell their stories without judgment, without diversion or, debate. Just tell us your story because
Yeah.
we are walking books. Every single one of us have stories, more than one, to tell.
Hmm.
And you can write a memoir, you could do, have your autobiography written or whatever, but control your story and find ways to get it out into the world.
Yeah.
I think that would make the world a much better place.
I do too. I think if we all just took a second and instead of lurching at someone and attacking someone for having a different opinion or, saying something, and I'm not talking like morally or ethically
Right.
different. I'm talking like my Starbucks order is different than your Starbucks order. Okay. Like we can talk about those things. Don't jump on them, educate, you know? I get so tired of seeing this vitriol online. And it's like, well, not everybody's going to understand what you're going through. So instead of attacking them for not knowing, why don't you say, okay, here, can I just explain this to you? You know, and listen,
Ask questions.
listen. Yeah, ask, listen. And if somebody asks you a question or wants to listen to you, don't get offended.
Right.
They're trying to understand.
Exactly.
And some of us are maybe have a harder time with kind of explaining what's going on, but
But you know what?
you know,
We get better at it
we
the
do.
more we get to talk about it.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I think it's
And
go ahead.
I was gonna say, and some people right now, I mean, neurodivergence is seen so negatively. I mean, it's coming up more and more, I'm seeing, but there's still the stigma around it, and people are afraid to say that they are neurodivergent because of how people will shame or judge them. And that definitely that narrative needs to change.
Well, think of the book, Divergent. Isn't that the Hunger Games? And
Mm,
is that the Hunger Games?
uh
No. There's a divergent category. I thought it was the Hunger Games. Maybe
I
not.
don't
Anyway,
I don't think so.
I'm
I
a
could be
writer,
wrong.
I should know these things.
So am I, but I only read the first book of the Hunger Games.
Okay.
So,
So, yeah, I think it's similar to that, you know? People hear the word divergent, and they automatically think they're aliens, you know, that they're so different, that they even have been given a title of divergent. And in this story, I think the divergent people were made to compete for their lives. And, you know, that's kind of a sci-fi trope, but I think learning to understand other people is why I became a writer, because it has helped me so much. Because I can create the character and give them any kind of divergent qualities I want, and then write their story and come to an understanding myself about how they are who they are. And it's, you know, part psychology, part writer exploration and research and stuff like that. But it's been a tremendous help to me to write these.
mm,
I I provide a program called Right to Heal. It's in conjunction with the regional therapists that I work with. And it's a writing program on learning yourself, learning about yourself through writing and learning about other people through writing, healing your trauma through writing. And it's
mm,
guided writing, and it's, you know, overseen by a therapist, so there's no harm being caused anywhere. But there are just so many ways to get our stories out there. And I think that those of us who hold on to our stories and never tell them, I don't think they can be happy in the world. And I'm not just
yeah,
saying that as a general statement. I'm thinking that we are born storytellers. We need to tell our stories, or stories in general. But why not tell our own? That's
yeah,
the way I look at it.
yeah. No, yeah, I mean, that's very valid, and I agree. Everybody has a story in them.
That's right. And
Everybody should have take a creative writing class.
well, I'll tell you one thing. I had an English composition teacher who understood divergence because we were in a segment where we were learning to diagram sentences. And even though I knew then in high school that I was going to be a writer, I did not see the need for diagram sentences. I was like, that's just no. It's like algebra. I'm never going to use it for anything in my life, and I haven't. I don't need to know how to diagram a sentence. So what she did is she said, "Look, I'll make a deal with you. You write a short story every day for this class, and I will grade you in ways that'll show you why diagramming sentences is important in understanding writing and language." And so we did that, and I aced that class because it was such a dynamic way. But she figured out that I didn't think like other people, and so she presented an alternative way to learn what I needed to learn. And that to me was just amazing.
That's so cool. Yeah, I wish that schools nowadays would be, and I can't speak for all schools, but I can speak for, the one my son goes to. It's just not, it's not something that they focus on. It's just not something that's really understood. It's like my way or the highway kind of a thing. And kids nowadays, especially, I think that more and more of this stuff comes out, and we start understanding more traits of neurodivergence, something's going to have to shift because more people are going to recognize, hey, I don't learn like this. I learn in a different way. And if schools aren't willing to take that on,
Well, look at why schools were formed in the first place. They were formed to prepare the children of the world to work in factories. That's all they were for. And that's where our school system has evolved from. So we're still, I think, stuck in many ways in that industrialized way of thinking that we need a product, which is the student, that can function in society, in a capitalist society, in a way that can make money. And so art, creative, neurodivergent people are seen as not being the perfect model for that teaching style. And I think, yeah, there's going to have to come a shift. I think there's a tipping point coming. I don't know when that'll take place, but there is one coming. It always happens when you have a population that's growing exponentially all the time.
yeah,
There's going to be a tipping point and it's going to change. So I look forward to that. I hope I'm not 250 years old when it happens.
yeah, let's hope. Let's hope I'm not 150 when it happens.
But, so we do our part. We do our part by helping those people who are like us
Yeah,
understand themselves and to grow and thrive and do that. I think your family is extremely lucky to have someone like you as part of the family
thank
because
you.
of what you bring to.
Yeah,
So
yeah. My mom always used to say, "You thrive in chaos," and I'm like, "Do I?" And yeah, and now I know why. And it wasn't chaos to me. It was a way to keep my brain busy.
you have ADHD channels of creative processing.
I do. I do.
And I think,
Yeah.
we should teach that it's something you can leverage to survive or thrive.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yep,
Yep.
yep.
All right. Well, Marcus, it was a pleasure talking to you. I had such a fun conversation. This was so
Likewise.
great. And if people want to talk to you, get a hold of you, learn more about your ADHD, where can they find you?
MarcusPOday.com. That's it has all my 7,000 projects on there somewhere. So yeah, it's more like opening a grimoire and seeing all of these things and you're like, "Oh my god, what is this?" But
That's so
yeah,
funny.
I don't apologize for it.
No, and you shouldn't. No apologies.
So,
Nope.
well, Danielle, thank you so,
Yeah.
so much. This has been a
Thank you.
pleasure and a joy talking with you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on today and lots of good
Yeah,
information shared.
I hope this gets to the ears of the people who need to know this stuff.
It will.
Perfect.
I will. I have faith in that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And thank you all for hanging out with us on Fine, I'll Talk About It. If today's episode got you thinking, hit follow or subscribe so you don't miss what's next. And if you want more real talk, more perspective shifts, and more finally someone said it moments, leave a quick review. It helps other people find the show. You can connect with me on Instagram at Inspired Action Wellness or my website, inspiredactionwellness.com, for more conversations like this. We will see you in the next episode.